Ambassador Ji-won Kim stood at the observation window of the Galactic Council station, watching the stars drift by in the endless darkness of space. She had been summoned here with barely 12 hours' notice. That alone told her how desperate things had become. Behind her, the massive chamber filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. Some breathed oxygen like her. Others required specialized atmosphere suits. A few existed as pure energy contained in crystalline matrices. The galaxy was vast and diverse, but today they all shared one thing in common: fear. The war with the Vrakthian Empire had been raging for 47 cycles. That translated to roughly 19 Earth years. Ji-won had studied the reports during her journey here. The numbers were staggering. Millions dead. Dozens of star systems reduced to ash. The Vrakthians were a warrior race, and they were very good at what they did. Ambassador Kim. The voice came from Overseer Thalnix, the insectoid being who led the Council's diplomatic corps. His translator device rendered his clicking mandibles into smooth, measured tones. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Ji-won turned from the window and bowed slightly. "Overseer, I'm honored by the invitation, though I suspect this isn't a social call." Thalnix's compound eyes reflected the ambient light like tiny mirrors. "Direct. I appreciate that quality in humans. Yes, this is urgent. We need Earth's help." "We've only been part of the Council for 3 years," Ji-won said carefully.
"What could we possibly offer that 100 more established worlds cannot?"
Thalnix gestured with one of his 4 arms toward a holographic display. It showed a massive warship, all sharp angles and aggressive design. "This is the Crimson Talon, Warlord Craven's flagship. He has agreed to meet for peace negotiations. This is the first time in 47 cycles that the Vrakthians have shown any interest in talking. That's good news, isn't it? Perhaps. Or perhaps it's a trap." Thalnix's antennae twitched nervously. "We've sent 17 different ambassadors to negotiate with the Vrakthians over the years. 11 were killed. 4 were returned to us as a warning. 2 simply vanished." Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. "And you want me to be number 18? The Vrakthians requested specifically that Earth send a representative. They've heard stories about your world. They're curious about humans." Thalnix paused. "We're hoping that curiosity will keep you alive long enough to make progress." "Stories? What kind of stories?" Another council member spoke up. This one was Counselor Vexen, a tall being with purple skin and far too many fingers. "Your people have a reputation, Ambassador. Deathworlders, some call you. Your planet's gravity is higher than most inhabited worlds. Your weather patterns are violent. Your native predators are unusually aggressive, yet humans not only survived but thrived." "We did what we had to do," Ji-won said simply. "Yes, well." Thalnix clicked his mandibles together in what might have been their equivalent of a nervous laugh. "The Vrakthians respect strength. Perhaps they'll respect Earth enough to actually negotiate." Ji-won considered this. She thought about her home, about Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds. She thought about the billions of people there who had no idea a galactic war was threatening to spill into their sector of space. If she could help end this war, it was worth the risk. "I'll do it," she said, "but I have one condition." "Name it. I bring my own security." "A human guard." The council chamber erupted in a chittering, buzzing mixture of alien laughter and disbelief. Thalnix raised an arm for silence. "Ambassador, I mean no disrespect, but the Crimson Talon will have Vrakthian security. What could one human guard possibly accomplish? It's standard protocol for Earth diplomats operating in high-risk environments," Ji-won said firmly. "If you want me to go, I go with Captain Minho Park. Non-negotiable." Thalnix's antennae drooped slightly, but he nodded. "Very well. If it makes you feel safer, bring your guard. The negotiations are scheduled to begin in 36 hours. I suggest you prepare." The council session ended, and Ji-won made her way through the winding corridors of the station to the human quarters. She found Minho exactly where she expected him, in the small training room they'd been assigned. He was running through combat drills, his movements precise and economical. Captain Minho Park looked like he'd been carved from stone. Not particularly tall by human standards, but solid. His dark hair was cut military short and his eyes missed nothing. He'd been Ji-won's security detail for 2 years now, and she trusted him completely. "We have a mission," Ji-won said. Minho stopped mid-movement and grabbed a towel. "I heard. The whole station is talking about it. They think you're walking into a death trap. They might be right." Then we don't go. Jiwan smiled. You know it doesn't work that way, Captain. If there's even a chance to end this war, we have to try. Minho was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded. When do we leave? 36 hours. You'll need to prepare. I'm always prepared, Ambassador. He paused. Do they know? Know what? About humans. About what we're really capable of. Jiwan shook her head. They think we're tough because we survived Earth. They have no idea what that actually means. To them, we're just another Category 3 species. Moderately dangerous, nothing special. Their mistake, Minho said quietly. Let's hope we don't have to correct it. This is a diplomatic mission, Captain. I need you there to keep me safe, not to start a fight. I never start fights, Ambassador. Minho's expression was completely serious. I just finished them. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Jiwan reviewed everything she could find about Vrakthian culture, history, and psychology. They were a warrior race, yes, but they had art, music, and philosophy. They valued honor and strength, but they weren't mindless brutes. There had to be a way to reach them. Minho, meanwhile, went through his equipment with methodical care. His sidearm, a compact human-designed plasma weapon. Backup ammunition.
A combat knife.
A small medical kit. Body armor that looked deceptively light. He checked everything 3 times. Finally, the time came. Their shuttle was small but fast, designed for diplomatic missions. As they undocked from the council station and headed toward the coordinates where the Crimson Talon waited, G1 felt her pulse quicken. Nervous? Minho asked from the pilot's seat. Terrified, G1 admitted, but I won't let it stop me. Good, fear keeps you sharp. It's only dangerous if you let it control you. Through the viewport, the Crimson Talon came into view. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the council station they'd just left. Its hull was dark red, almost the color of dried blood. Weapons bristled from every surface. This wasn't just a warship. It was a statement of power. Still time to turn back, Minho said, though his hands remained steady on the controls. No, Jiwan said. There isn't. They received docking clearance and Minho guided the shuttle into one of the Talon's many hangar bays. As they touched down, G1 could see Vrakthian warriors waiting for them. They were massive creatures, easily 8 feet tall with armored skin and weapons that looked like they could punch through starship hulls. Minho stood and checked his weapon one last time. Stay behind me until we're sure it's safe. Captain, we're here to make peace. We're here to try, Minho corrected. There's a difference. The shuttle's ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics. The air that rushed in was hot and smelled of metal and something organic that G1 couldn't quite identify. She took a deep breath, straightened her diplomatic robes, and stepped forward. Minho fell into step beside her, his hand resting casually near his weapon. To the casual observer, he looked relaxed. But G1 had worked with him long enough to recognize the signs. Every muscle was ready. Every sense was alert. He was a spring coiled tight, waiting to release. They walked down the ramp together, ambassador and guard, human representatives in an alien war. Neither of them knew it yet, but the next few hours would change the galaxy forever. The war was about to end. It would take exactly 3 minutes. The corridors of the Crimson Talon were designed to intimidate. Everything was oversized, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were decorated with weapons and battle trophies. Skulls from a dozen different species lined the walkways like some macabre gallery. The message was clear. The Vrakthians were predators and everyone else was prey. G1 walked with her head held high, refusing to show fear. Beside her, Minho moved with quiet confidence. His eyes tracked every shadow, every movement, every potential threat. Their Vrakthian escort led them deeper into the ship without speaking. The warriors were huge, their footsteps heavy on the metal deck. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a massive door. It slid open with a grinding sound that reminded G1 of teeth. Beyond it lay the negotiation chamber. The room was circular with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness. In the center sat a large table made from some dark material that looked like polished stone. Around the edges of the room stood 16 Vrakthian warriors in full battle armor. They held weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. At the far end of the table sat Warlord Craven himself. He was enormous, even by Vrakthian standards. His skin was thick and scarred from countless battles. His eyes were a deep amber color that seemed to glow in the dim light. When he smiled, Jiwan could see rows of sharp teeth designed for rending flesh. "The humans," Craven said. His voice was deep, rumbling like distant thunder. "I was told your species was small. I see the reports were accurate." Jiwan approached the table calmly. "Warlord Craven, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I'm Ambassador Jiwan Kim of Earth, representing the Galactic Council." "Earth," Craven repeated as if tasting the word. "The Death World. Tell me, little human, is your planet really as dangerous as the stories say?" "Every planet has its dangers," Jiwan replied diplomatically. "Earth taught us to be resourceful," Craven laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. "Resourceful? How diplomatic. And who is this?" He gestured toward Minho with one massive hand. "This is Captain Minho Park, my security detail." The warlord's eyes fixed on Minho with interest. "Security? You brought one guard to my flagship surrounded by my warriors?" He laughed again, louder this time. Several of his warriors joined in. The sound echoed off the chamber walls. Minho said nothing. His expression remained neutral. His posture relaxed but ready. "Your guard is either very brave or very stupid," Craven observed. "Neither," Jiwan said. "He's simply doing his job. Shall we begin the negotiations?" She moved to sit at the table, but Minho's hand shot out, stopping her. He walked around the table first, examining it from every angle. He looked under it, checking for hidden weapons or traps. The Vrakthian warriors watched with barely concealed amusement. "Paranoid little creature," one of them muttered. Minho ignored the comment. When he was satisfied, he nodded to Jiwan. She sat down and he took up position behind and slightly to her right. His hand rested near his weapon. Craven watched this display with what might have been curiosity. "Very well, Ambassador. You have traveled far to speak with me. Speak." Jiwan pulled up a holographic display from the table's surface. It showed star charts, territory boundaries, and proposed peace terms. "Warlord, this war has cost both sides dearly. Millions have died. Resources have been depleted. Neither the Council nor the Vrakthian Empire can sustain this conflict indefinitely." "War is not about sustainability," Craven interrupted. "It's about dominance. The strong survive. The weak perish. This is the natural order." "I'm not here to debate philosophy," Jiwan said patiently. "I'm here to offer you terms that allow the Vrakthian Empire to maintain its honor while ending the bloodshed." She outlined the proposal. Territory adjustments, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, reparations that would flow both ways. It was a good deal, carefully crafted to appeal to Vrakthian pride while giving the Council the security it needed. Craven listened in silence. When she finished, he leaned back in his massive chair. The metal creaked under his weight. "You speak well, Ambassador," he said. "Your words are pretty. Your logic is sound. There is only one problem." "What problem?" This was never about negotiation. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. Jiwan's stomach dropped. Behind her, she felt Minho shift slightly, his body tensing. "I don't understand," Jiwan said, though she was beginning to fear that she understood perfectly. Craven stood. He towered over the table, over everything. "The Council is weak. They send diplomats and hope for mercy. They don't understand that mercy is for the strong to give, not the weak to request. Warlord, if you never intended to negotiate, why agree to this meeting?" "Because you're worth more to me as a hostage than as a corpse," Craven said simply. "The Council will surrender completely to save their precious human ambassador, the Death Worlder. The great hope of the galaxy." He laughed again. "They think you're special because you survived a harsh planet. But you're still just another weak species hiding behind diplomacy." Jiwan felt her heart racing. In the back of her mind, she could hear Thelnix's words. 11 killed. 4 returned as a warning. 2 vanished. "This is a mistake," she said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "No, Ambassador. Your mistake was coming here." Craven gestured to his warriors. "Take her. Kill the guard if he resists. Actually, kill him anyway. One human won't be missed." The 16 Vrakthian warriors began moving forward. Their weapons powered up with a whining sound. The circle was closing. Minho stepped in front of Jiwan. "Captain," she said quietly. "I know," he replied. "You may proceed with Protocol 7. Somewhere in the council chambers, alarms were going off. High Priestess Yuna Choi watched the video feed from the Crimson Talon with growing horror. Other council members were shouting, demanding someone do something. But they were light years away. There was nothing they could do. On the screen, they saw the Vrakthian warriors advancing. They saw the small human guard standing between them and the ambassador. It looked hopeless. "Someone get a rescue team ready," Yuna ordered. "Track their life signs." "We need to." "Wait," Counselor Vexen interrupted. "Look at the human." "The guard?" They all looked. Captain Minho Park stood perfectly still as the warriors approached. He didn't look afraid. He didn't look angry. He looked calm. Almost serene. "What is he doing?" Thalnix whispered. On the Crimson Talon, Minho spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried clearly across the chamber. "Warlord Craven," he said, "you have 3 seconds to stand down." The chamber fell silent. Then Craven began to laugh. It started as a chuckle and built into a roaring belly laugh that shook the room. His warriors joined in. The sound was deafening. 3 seconds, Craven howled. "Did you hear that? The little human gives me an ultimatum. 1 small guard against 16 of my finest warriors." He wiped tears from his eyes. "This is the funniest thing I've heard in 47 cycles." Minho didn't repeat the warning. He simply stood there, counting silently in his head. 3. The laughter continued. The warriors moved closer, weapons raised. They were enjoying this. 2 Jiwan remained seated, her hands folded calmly on the table. She trusted Minho completely. 1. The 3 seconds expired. What happened next would be analyzed for years to come. The recording systems on the Crimson Talon captured everything, but they had to slow it down by a factor of 10 for anyone to understand what they were seeing. Minho moved. His hand went to his weapon with a speed that seemed impossible. The closest 3 warriors were just beginning to process the motion when their weapons sparked and died, disabled by 3 perfectly placed shots before they could even aim. A 4th warrior lunged with a plasma blade. Minho wasn't where the blade struck. He had already moved, sliding under the attack with fluid grace. He used the warrior's own momentum against him, redirecting him into 2 others. They went down in a tangle of limbs and armor. The remaining warriors reacted, but they were too slow. Minho was already among them, moving like water, like wind, like something that couldn't be pinned down or predicted. Every movement served a purpose. Every action flowed into the next with perfect efficiency. A weapon fired. Minho had already moved. The shot hit another warrior instead, a blade slashed. Minho caught the arm mid-swing, used the leverage to throw the attacker across the room. Shots, movement, chaos. But at the center of it all, Minho remained calm. His breathing was steady. His eyes were focused. This was what he had trained for his entire life. Not war. Not glory, survival. In the council chambers, they watched in stunned silence. The recording had to be slowed down so much that it looked like Minho was moving at normal speed, while everyone else was stuck in molasses. "How?" Thalnix breathed. "How is this possible?" 60 seconds after Minho began moving, it was over. 16 Vrakthian elite warriors lay on the ground, some unconscious, some groaning in pain, some clutching disabled weapons, all of them defeated. Minho stood in the center of the chamber. His weapon was still in his hand but pointed at the floor. He wasn't even breathing hard. Warlord Craven stood frozen, his own weapon half drawn from its holster. He stared at the carnage around him with an expression that might have been shock. Across the room, Commander Velrax scrambled for the control panel to activate the ship's internal defenses. His hand was halfway to the button when a single shot rang out. The panel exploded in a shower of sparks. Velrax jerked his hand back with a yelp of pain. The silence in the chamber was absolute. The only sound was the quiet groaning of wounded warriors and the soft hum of the ship's systems. Warlord Craven stood frozen, his amber eyes wide with something that looked like disbelief. Minho remained in the center of the room. His weapon was still drawn but lowered. He watched Craven carefully, waiting to see what the warlord would do next. Around him, the 16 elite warriors lay scattered like broken toys. None of them were dead, but they wouldn't be fighting again anytime soon. "What are you?" Craven finally asked. His voice had lost its mocking tone. Now he sounded genuinely curious, perhaps even cautious. Jiwan answered from her seat at the table. "We told you. We're from Earth. That means nothing to me." "Then let me explain," Jiwan said. She remained calm, as if the last 60 seconds of violence had been nothing more than a minor interruption. "Captain Park, you may stand down. I believe the warlord is ready to listen now." Minho holstered his weapon smoothly. He moved to stand behind Jiwan again. taking up his original position. His eyes never left Craven. The warlord looked at his fallen warriors, then back at the two humans. Slowly, carefully, he removed his hand from his weapon and sat down heavily in his chair. The metal groaned under his weight. "Explain," he said. Jiwan pulled up a new holographic display. This one didn't show peace terms or territory maps. Instead, it showed a blue and green planet rotating slowly in space. "Earth. This is our homeworld," Jiwan began. "From space, it looks peaceful. Beautiful, even. But Earth is what the galaxy calls a death world." Craven leaned forward slightly. "I've heard this term. High gravity. Dangerous weather, so what? Many worlds have these things. Earth's gravity is 1.3 times what most species consider comfortable," Jiwan continued. "We evolved under that pressure. Our bones are denser. Our muscles are stronger. Everything about us is built to function under constant physical stress." She changed the display to show Earth's surface. Vast oceans, towering mountains, dense jungles, frozen tundras. Our planet has extreme weather variations. Hurricanes that can level cities. Tornadoes that appear without warning. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. Living on Earth means accepting that nature might kill you at any moment. The display shifted again, showing various Earth animals: lions, tigers, bears, great white sharks, crocodiles, hippos. "These are some of Earth's predators," Jiwan said. "Humans aren't the apex predator on our world. We had to compete with creatures that were stronger, faster, and better armed than us. Many of them still kill humans even today." Craven studied the images. "If these creatures are so dangerous, how did your species survive?" "We're persistence hunters," Minho spoke up. It was the first time he'd said more than a few words since entering the chamber. "We can't outrun most predators. We can't outfight them with our bare hands, but we can outlast them." Jiwan nodded. "Humans evolved to track prey for days at a time. We can run for hours without stopping. Our bodies regulate temperature through sweating, which lets us cool down while running. Most animals can't do that. They overheat and have to stop. We don't." She pulled up new data. Charts and graphs showing human capabilities compared to galactic averages. "Our reaction times are faster than most species. Our pattern recognition is more advanced. We can process visual information and make decisions in fractions of a second. We have to. On Earth, hesitation means death." "One guard," Craven said slowly. "Defeated 16 of my best warriors in under a minute." "Captain Park is a standard security officer," Jiwan said. "He has basic combat training. Nothing special by human standards." This statement hung in the air like a physical thing. Craven's expression shifted from shock to something that might have been fear. Back on the council station, pandemonium reigned. The observation room was filled with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. They had all watched the recording. They had all seen what the human guard did. Now they were demanding explanations. Overseer Thalnik stood at the center of the chaos, his antennae twitching wildly. "Order! I demand order!" The room gradually quieted. High Priestess Yuna Choi stepped forward. "Overseer, we need answers. How is this possible? Humans were classified as Category 3 combatants, moderately dangerous at best. What we just witnessed was beyond Category 3, Counselor Vexen finished. That was easily Category 1 performance. Perhaps beyond even that." "I don't understand," another counselor said. "We evaluated the humans. We saw their physical capabilities. We knew they came from a high-gravity world. But this," a new voice spoke up. "Perhaps we didn't ask the right questions." Admiral Daeho Song's face appeared on the main display. He was broadcasting from Earth's orbital defense station. "Admiral Song," Thalnik said with obvious relief. "Can you explain what we just witnessed?" Daeho was a stern-looking man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's military. "You asked us about our weapons technology, our ship designs, our strategic capabilities, but you never asked about our people. We assessed human physiology," Vexen protested. "We know you're stronger than average because of your planet's gravity." "Strength isn't everything," Daeho replied. "Let me tell you about humans. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Not just the predators, not just the weather, everything. We had to develop traits that let us survive." He pulled up medical data, brain scans, genetic information, physiological studies. Human brains process threat assessment constantly. We scan our environment dozens of times per second, looking for danger. It's automatic. We can't turn it off. This is why humans often seem paranoid to other species. We're not paranoid. We're just wired for survival. A scientist from the council staff spoke up. This was Yunji Lee, a xenobiologist who specialized in evolutionary adaptation. Admiral, I'm looking at the combat footage now. Captain Park's movements show incredible economy of motion. No wasted energy. Perfect balance. How is this possible? Training, Deho said simply. Every human child learns basic combat skills in school. Self-defense, threat awareness, emergency response. It's not military training. It's survival training. We teach our children how to handle dangerous situations because on Earth, dangerous situations are common. But the speed, Yunji insisted. His reaction time is beyond what our models predicted for humans. Your models were based on average humans in non-stressful situations, Deho explained. Under pressure, human bodies release chemicals called adrenaline. It increases our strength, sharpens our focus, and speeds up our reaction time. We evolved this response to handle immediate threats. Captain Park was in a combat situation. His body responded accordingly. Thalnix was processing this information with visible difficulty. Admiral, are you telling us that what we saw was a normal human response? For a trained security officer in a combat situation? Yes, Park is good at his job, but he's not special forces. He's not even in our top tier of combat specialists. He's just a regular soldier doing what he was trained to do. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. On the Crimson Talon, Craven was reaching the same conclusions. He looked at Minho with new eyes. You said you're not special. Not by human standards. That's correct, Minho confirmed. Then what would your special forces be capable of? Minho's expression remained neutral. You don't want to find out, Warlord? Craven sat back in his chair. For the first time in 47 cycles of war, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The Vrakthian Empire has conquered 17 star systems, he said quietly. We are feared across the galaxy. Our warriors train from birth to fight. We live for battle. We die for glory. I understand, Jiwon said gently. No, I don't think you do. Craven looked at her directly. We thought we were the strongest. The most dangerous. We thought if we kept fighting, kept conquering, eventually the galaxy would bow to our strength. And now I'm wondering what would happen if Earth decided to go to war. His voice was soft, almost contemplative. If one guard can do this, what could your armies do? Jiwon leaned forward. That's the thing, Warlord. We don't want to find out either. Yes, humans are capable of violence. We evolved in a violent environment. But we also evolved to work together, to solve problems, to find ways to survive that don't require constant fighting. She changed the display again. This time it showed human cities, people living, working, creating art and music and technology, children playing, families together. We learned that survival isn't just about being the strongest, Jiwon continued. It's about being smart enough to know when to fight and when to make peace. Earth has known war. We've fought among ourselves for thousands of years. We know exactly how terrible it can be. Craven studied the images. Your cities are beautiful. Thank you. We'd like to keep them that way, just as I'm sure you'd like to preserve your own worlds. The warlord was quiet for a long moment. Around them, some of his warriors were starting to regain consciousness. They groaned and pulled themselves up, looking around in confusion. I need to think, Craven finally said. Take your time, Jiwon replied. But know this. The Council doesn't want to destroy the Vrakthian Empire. They want to end the war. There's a difference, and if I refuse, if I order my fleets to continue fighting, Jiwon's expression remained calm, but her eyes were hard. Then Earth will have to get involved. The negotiation chamber had changed. The tension hadn't disappeared completely, but it had shifted into something more manageable. Warlord Craven sat at the table now, actually sitting with his attention focused on the holographic displays that Jiwon was showing him. The wounded warriors had been escorted out to the medical bay. Minho remained at his post behind Jiwon, but the atmosphere had shifted from hostile to something more like wary respect. This is the proposed boundary adjustment, Jiwon explained, highlighting several star systems on the map. The Council withdraws from these 3 systems. They were Vrakthian territory before the war began. In return, the Empire withdraws from these 5 systems here. Craven studied the map carefully. Those 5 systems are resource-rich. You're asking me to give up valuable territory. I'm asking you to return systems that belonged to other species before your empire conquered them. species that had lived there for thousands of years. The strong take from the weak. This is how the universe works, Jiwan nodded slowly. I understand that's how the Vrakthian Empire sees things. But let me ask you something, Warlord. What happens when you meet someone stronger? The question hung in the air. Craven's eyes flicked briefly to Minho, then back to Jiwan. Your guard, Craven said. He could have killed my warriors. I saw the footage. He had clear shots. Clean kills. But he chose not to. Why? Because killing wasn't necessary, Minho answered. His voice was calm and matter-of-fact. My job is to protect Ambassador Kim. Your warriors threatened her. I neutralized the threat. Killing would have accomplished nothing except making peace harder to achieve. On my world, showing mercy is seen as weakness. On my world, unnecessary violence is seen as lack of control. Minho replied, Any fool can kill. It takes skill to win without killing. Craven considered this. In the background, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Warlord, this is Commander Velrax. The Council is requesting a status update. They want to know if the humans are still alive. Craven looked at Jiwan with what might have been amusement. Shall I tell them you're fine? That would be appreciated. The Warlord activated his communicator. Velrax, tell the Council that negotiations are proceeding. Both humans are alive and unharmed. We will contact them when we have reached a conclusion. There was a pause on the other end. Understood, Warlord. Back on the Council station, the observation room erupted in relieved chatter. Overseer Thalnik sagged against his console. They're alive. Thank the stars, they're alive. High Priestess Yuna allowed herself a small smile. More than alive, it seems. They're actually negotiating. Admiral Deho's face was still on the main display. I told you Ambassador Kim was good at her job. With respect, Admiral, Thalnik said. I don't think it's just her diplomatic skills that are making this work. Your Captain Park made quite an impression. That was the idea, Deho replied. Sometimes peace requires demonstrating that war would be a very bad idea for everyone involved. Scientist Yunji Lee was still analyzing the combat footage, running it through multiple computer systems. Admiral, I have to ask, how much of the human population has combat training similar to Captain Park's? Every adult human receives basic combat training, Deho said. It's part of our standard education system. Park has additional training because he's military, but the fundamentals? Everyone learns those. Everyone. Counselor Vexen's voice was faint. You're saying every human on Earth can fight like that? With varying degrees of skill, yes. It's survival training. We teach our children how to handle threats because Earth is full of threats. It's not meant for warfare. It's meant for staying alive. Yunji pulled up population statistics for Earth. Admiral, Earth's population is approximately 9 billion individuals. Are you telling us that 9 billion humans all have combat training? That's correct. The observation room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Vrakthian Empire had maybe 2 billion warriors across their entire civilization. The Council's combined forces numbered perhaps 5 billion troops. Earth alone had 9 billion people, every single one of them trained to fight from childhood. We've been thinking about this wrong, Yuna said slowly. We classified humans as Category 3 because we were measuring individual strength. But humanity isn't about individual strength. It's about collective capability. Thalnix nodded, understanding dawning. Earth didn't send an army because they didn't need to. One guard was enough to make the point. On the Crimson Talon, that point was being reinforced. Jiwan had pulled up new data showing Earth's military capabilities. Not to threaten, but to educate. This is Earth's defensive fleet, she said. The display showed orbital stations and patrol ships. We maintain this purely for planetary defense. We don't have conquest fleets. We don't have invasion forces. We've never attacked another inhabited world. Why not? Craven asked. If humans are as capable as you claim, why haven't you expanded? Because we don't need to, Jiwan said simply. Earth provides for us. We have plenty of resources, plenty of space. We explore the galaxy out of curiosity, not hunger. The Council must pay you well to defend them. We don't defend the Council for payment, Warlord. We do it because we believe in what they represent. Different species working together. Sharing knowledge and resources. Solving problems through cooperation instead of conquest. Craven snorted. Idealistic nonsense, is it? Jiwan challenged. The Council has existed for over 1,000 years. They've had conflicts, yes, but they've also built something remarkable. A civilization that spans hundreds of worlds without forcing everyone to be the same. She changed the display to show various council worlds. Each one was unique. Different architectures, different cultures, different ways of life. The Vrakthian Empire conquers and absorbs. Jiwan continued. You take worlds and make them Vrakthian. The council allows worlds to remain themselves while contributing to something larger. Which approach do you think creates more stability? The approach that wins, Craven said firmly. And what have you won? Jiwan asked. 47 cycles of war. Millions dead. Resources depleted. Your empire is powerful, yes, but it's also isolated. No allies, no trade partners. Just enemies and conquered subjects. Is that really winning? The warlord was quiet. His massive hands rested on the table, clenched into fists. Minho spoke up again. Warlord, may I ask you a question? Craven looked at him. Speak. Why do the Vrakthians fight? What's the purpose of all this conquest? To prove our strength. To establish our dominance. To ensure our survival. How is your survival threatened? Minho pressed. Does the council want to destroy your homeworld? Do they raid your colonies? Or did your empire start this war? Craven's expression darkened. We strike first because we refuse to be weak. We refuse to wait for others to attack us. So you attack everyone first just in case they might be a threat later, Minho said. That's not strength, warlord. That's fear. The chamber went very quiet. For a moment, it looked like Craven might explode in rage. His jaw clenched. His eyes blazed. But then slowly the anger faded into something else. Something thoughtful. Fear, he repeated. You think the Vrakthian Empire is motivated by fear? I think your entire military philosophy is based on never appearing weak, Minho said. That's what fear looks like when it wears armor. Jiwan picked up the thread. Warlord, humanity knows about fear. We evolved on a planet that terrified us every single day. We could have let that fear make us violent and paranoid. Some humans did. But most of us learned a different lesson. What lesson? That courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and choosing not to let that fear control you. It's about being strong enough to seek peace even when you have the power to wage war. Craven stood and walked to the chamber's viewport. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions. His empire controlled 17 systems. The council held hundreds. Earth was just one world among billions, and yet everything had changed. If I agree to peace, he said slowly, my warriors will see it as weakness. They'll question my leadership. Then change what weakness means, Jiwan suggested. She stood and walked to join him at the viewport. Minho remained alert but allowed her to approach the warlord. Make peace the strong choice. The brave choice. The choice that requires more courage than simply continuing to fight. How? By demonstrating that you're strong enough to admit when fighting serves no purpose. By showing your people that true leadership means knowing when to end a war, not just how to win battles. Craven looked down at her. She was so much smaller than him, fragile by Vrakthian standards, but she had walked into his ship surrounded by his warriors and never shown fear. She had brought one guard who had defeated 16 elite fighters without even breaking a sweat, and now she stood beside him, talking about courage and leadership as if they were equals. Your species is strange, he said. We get that a lot, Jiwan replied with a slight smile. I will consider your terms, Craven decided, but I need something in return. Something that proves to my warriors that this peace is not surrender. What do you need? A cultural exchange. I want Vrakthian warriors to train with human soldiers. I want my people to see what humans are capable of. I want them to understand that peace with Earth isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Jiwan considered this. It was an unusual request, but not unreasonable. 3 days had passed since the confrontation in the negotiation chamber. The Crimson Talon remained docked at the neutral zone, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Vrakthian warriors and council observers moved through the corridors together. No longer enemies, but cautious colleagues. Jiwan sat in the main conference room with Warlord Craven, reviewing the final draft of the peace treaty. The document was impressive, covering everything from territorial boundaries to trade regulations to cultural exchange programs. It represented hundreds of hours of negotiation and compromise. This clause here, Craven said, pointing to a section about military presence near border worlds. It needs adjustment. My warriors need access to these systems for patrol routes. Agreed. But the council needs advance notice of any military movements. Jiwan countered. We can set up an automated notification system. Your ships file flight plans and the system alerts Council Defense Forces. No surprises, no incidents. Acceptable. They made the change and moved to the next section. This was how peace was built, Ji-won reflected. Not with dramatic gestures or sweeping declarations, but with patient attention to detail, making sure every concern was addressed. Every fear put to rest. Elsewhere on the ship, Minho stood in a training arena with the 16 warriors he had defeated. They had healed quickly, their Vrakthian physiology proving remarkably resilient. Now they watched him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Again, demanded one of the warriors, a female named Krasix, show us again how you moved. Minho had been demonstrating basic human combat techniques for the past 2 days. The Vrakthians were eager students, absorbing every lesson with intense focus. The key is not to use more force than necessary, Minho explained. He moved through the motions slowly so they could see every detail. You're all much stronger than me physically. If I try to match you strength for strength, I'll lose every time. So you use speed, another warrior observed. Speed, yes, but also leverage and momentum. I use your strength against you. When you attack with power, you're committed to that motion. I redirect it or use it to move you where I want you. He demonstrated again, showing how a larger opponent's charge could be turned into a throw using nothing but proper positioning and timing. Krasix tried to replicate the move. She got the basics right but lacked the fluid smoothness that made it effective. This is harder than it looks. It takes practice, Minho said. Human children start learning these techniques when they're young. By the time we're adults, the movements are automatic. We don't think about them. We just react. Your entire species trains like this? Asked a warrior named Torvik. Basic self-defense is taught in schools, yes. Not because we're preparing for war. Because we might encounter dangerous wildlife or natural disasters or any number of threats. Earth is unpredictable. The warriors absorbed this information. They were beginning to understand that humans weren't warriors in the Vrakthian sense. They were survivors who had been forced to become very, very good at not dying. In the council observation room, the various representatives watched multiple video feeds. Some showed the treaty negotiations. Others showed the training sessions. The mood had shifted from anxiety to cautious optimism. I still can hardly believe it, Overseer Thalnik said. 47 cycles of war, and it ends because one human demonstrated what humans are capable of. High Priestess Yuna smiled. It wasn't just the demonstration, though that certainly helped. It was Ambassador Kim's patience and skill. She knew exactly how to present the information. How to make Craven see that peace was the strong choice, not the weak one. Admiral Deho's image appeared on one of the displays. Any word on when they'll finalize the treaty? Soon, Thalnix replied. Perhaps today. The remaining issues are minor. Both sides want this to work. What about the cultural exchange? Asked Counselor Vexen. Is Earth prepared to host Vrakthian warriors? Deho nodded. We've already set up training facilities. We'll start with small groups. Let them see Earth. Experience human society. Train with our people. It'll be good for both species. Scientist Yunji Lee had been quiet, but now she spoke up. I've been analyzing all the data we've gathered about humans over the past few days. Do you realize what we're looking at? Humans aren't just another species. They represent a completely different evolutionary path. Explain, Thalnix requested. Most intelligent species evolved on relatively stable worlds, Yunji said. Predictable climates, limited predators, abundant resources. They developed technology and civilization because they had the luxury of time and safety. Humans had none of that. She pulled up comparative data on her display. Earth forced humans to develop physical capabilities, mental flexibility, and social cooperation simultaneously. They couldn't just be strong. They couldn't just be smart. They had to be both, and they had to work together or they'd go extinct. The result is a species that's uniquely balanced between physical capability and intellectual achievement. And uniquely dangerous, Vexen added quietly. Perhaps, Yunji conceded, but also uniquely valuable. Humans understand survival in a way most species don't. They understand cooperation born from necessity, not convenience. These are traits the galaxy needs. On the Crimson Talon, the final treaty review was complete. Ji-won and Craven both sat back, looking at the completed document displayed in the holographic field between them. It's done, Craven said. There was something in his voice that might have been relief. It's done, Ji-won agreed. Pending formal approval from both the Council and the Vrakthian High Command, of course. They'll approve it. On both sides. Everyone is tired of war. Even your warriors? Craven smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Especially my warriors. They've been training with your Captain Park. They've seen what he can do. More importantly, they've learned from him. They're already talking about what other things humans might teach them. Knowledge exchange goes both ways, G1 said. There's much humans can learn from Vrakthian culture as well. You're diplomatic even in victory. This isn't victory, Warlord. This is peace. There's a difference, a chime sounded. Commander Velrax's voice came through the intercom. Warlord, the Galactic News Network is requesting an interview. They want to broadcast the treaty signing live across all Council worlds. Craven looked at G1. What do you think? I think it's a good idea, she said. Let the galaxy see that peace is possible. Let them see that the Vrakthian Empire and the Galactic Council can work together. Very well. Craven activated his communicator. Velrax, arrange it. We'll hold the signing ceremony in 6 hours. Make sure it's properly staged. This needs to look like the historic moment it is. The next 6 hours were a flurry of activity. The negotiation chamber was transformed into a proper ceremonial space. Banners from both the Vrakthian Empire and the Galactic Council hung side by side. Camera equipment was set up. Representatives from dozens of species arrived to witness the signing in person. Minho returned from the training arena, his uniform cleaned and pressed. How do I look? He asked Yuan. Like a soldier who just prevented a war, she replied. Thank you, Captain. For everything. Just doing my job, Ambassador. You did more than that. You showed them what humanity represents. Strength with restraint. Capability with mercy. You're the one who negotiated the peace. I just removed an obstacle. Yuan smiled. We make a good team. The ceremony began precisely on time. Warlord Craven stood on one side of the treaty table, impressive in his formal armor. Ambassador Ji-Wan Kim stood on the other, representing the entire Galactic Council. Between them, the treaty document floated in holographic form, ready to be signed by both parties. Reporter Hyunwoo, Nam from the Galactic News Network provided commentary for the countless billions watching across hundreds of worlds. This is an historic day, Hyunwoo said into his camera. After 47 cycles of devastating war, the Vrakthian Empire and the Galactic Council are about to sign a comprehensive peace treaty. The negotiations were led by human ambassador Ji-Wan Kim, representing Earth, humanity's homeworld which recently joined the Council. He paused, choosing his words carefully. For those who haven't heard the full story, the negotiations were not without incident. An initial confrontation demonstrated capabilities that surprised everyone involved. But rather than escalating to further violence, both sides chose to pursue peace. That choice, made by both Ambassador Kim and Warlord Craven, is what we're celebrating today. In the chamber, Ji-Wan and Craven stood facing each other across the table. Warlord Craven, Ji-Wan said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I present this treaty as a path to lasting peace between our peoples. Ambassador Kim, Craven replied with equal formality. On behalf of the Vrakthian Empire, I accept this treaty and pledge my empire's commitment to its terms. They both placed their hands on the holographic document. Their signatures appeared in light, binding in galactic law. The treaty was complete. The war was over. The chamber erupted in applause. Council representatives cheered. Even some of the Vrakthian warriors present allowed themselves expressions of relief. Craven extended his massive hand to Ji-Wan. She took it without hesitation. The handshake was captured by dozens of cameras, an image that would be shared across the galaxy within minutes. You were right, Craven said quietly, so only Ji-Wan could hear.